Okay. Could please stand, call the meeting to order, and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Miss Martin. Here. Mr. McHugh. Mia Martin.
Here.
Miss Doherty.
Here.
Miss Fattacante.
Here.
Mr. Leahy.
Here.
Mr. Leary.
Here.
6 present, 1 absent.
Okay, the first item on the agenda, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. One from the budget hearing of May 12th, one from the regular school committee meeting of May 16th, and one from the budget hearing of June 11th. If there's no objection, we'll consider them all together.
Move approval, Your Honor.
Motion approved by Ms. Fattacante, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under permission to enter, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, this is continues the season of the contracts moving ahead to next year, in particular, with a few finishing up this year's. The first, the Cardinal Cushing Centers Incorporated, $8,777 to amend the existing contract to provide for additional costs involving 2 students. That's out of the FY07 Special Education Tuition Account. Same account for the Protestant Guild for Human Services, $30,718. That's amending the contract for 4 of our students. And then moving into FY08 budget, Professional Center for Handicapped Children Incorporated, $58,125. That's for tuition for 1 student. Again, the special ed tuition account, but this time out of the fiscal year 08 budget. Community Teamwork Incorporated, Child Care Search, $800,000 to provide parent intake and subsidy management for up to 300 children and families. That's through the Community Partnership Child Care Subsidy, funded by the Community Partnership for Children grant from the state. Massachusetts Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, $230,000 from the same grant, and it's providing behavioral consultation to community-based early childhood programs and staffing to support programs at community sites and mental health consultation to community sites. Again, Middlesex Community College, $75,000, same grant, same state grant, and that is to provide college courses through our early childhood department and training on the Massachusetts Department of Education teachers examination. Same grant, Salem State College, $75,000, again for coursework and training for the examination. Then moving to our athletic program, contract for Mark B. Romanowski, $10,000 to provide physical examinations for candidates for our athletic teams. For the athletic contracted services line of our fiscal year 08 budget. Middlesex Community College, $55,000 to support the peer mediation program at Lowell High School called the SCORE program. We run that in partnership with the Office of the Attorney General. This is provided through a special program, the special program portion of the local budget, and then also the Office of the Attorney General of Massachusetts, who contributes $20,000 to this contract. Middlesex Community College, $798,203 to continue the bridge program, again out of the fiscal year 08 school department budget. Middlesex Community College, $20,000. This is for our dual enrollment program, comes out of our local budget. University of Massachusetts at Lowell, $70,000, the same dual enrollment program coming out of our local budget. Then Wayne Alarm Systems Incorporated, $95,470, which to provide 24-hour central station alarm service and the maintenance on the alarm systems for 3 years. Comes out of the school department FY08 budget. Constellation Energy Projects and Services Group Incorporated, $232,525. That's monitoring the services for 20 heating systems and EMS systems. Again, the school department budget, a 3-year contract. Keene Fire and Safety Equipment Company, $20,550. That's servicing the 500 fire extinguishers and hose cabinets in 30 locations in the school department over the next school year. Robert Lord Company, $20,143, provides monthly examination and inspection of the gymnasium bleachers in 19 school locations and does repair as needed. Post Office Locksmith Incorporated, $27,600. It's the annual maintenance and repair contract for interior and exterior key locking mechanisms. Fiscal year '08 budget.
Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. I just have one question, just to be clear on it. All these contracts go out to bid, as far as like the maintenance ones, the gymnasium, bleachers, and
I believe so. I just want to confirm with Mr. Lang. All the contracts for the operations and go out to bid, correct?
Yeah, any of the contracts here before you have been publicly bid.
All right. I just want to be clear, because sometimes, occasionally, people come up and say, how come you don't go with the local guy? Well, everybody has a chance to bid it fair.
Right, there are
So,
certain contracts
okay.
that, when you hit a certain financial threshold, you actually are required to go out under 30B, or
Right.
if it's a construction contract, 149, and actually do a competitive bid process. So these are the ones that have to comply with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make a request if we could take one of the items separately. The fourth item there for community teamwork. As an employee, I would not be able to vote on that, so if we could
Make
take
a
it
motion,
separately.
Your Honor, to remove that item number 4 from the list. Vote
So
on
m-
it separately.
So moved by Ms. Fattacante, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll consider that item separately. Motion to approve the remainder of the items on the list by
Motion to
Ms.
approve.
Martin, second by
Second.
Ms. Fattacante. Roll call, please.
Accept. Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh? Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante?
Yes?
Mr. Leahy?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Your Honor, motion to approve item number 4, contract with community teamwork.
Motion to approve item 4 by Ms. Fattacante, second by Mr. Leahy. Any questions? Roll call.
Ms. Martin?
Present.
Mr. McHugh? Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante?
Yes?
Mr. Leahy?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
5 yeas, 1 absent, 1 present, approved.
Okay, that next item on the agenda are memorials. We have 2 memorials offered by Ms. Fattacante. First is for Ann Farrington, sister-in-law of Alice Miller, the Parent Information Center clerk, and Anna McInespy, a retired curriculum office secretary. I should add that Ann was also the mother of the late Michael Farrington, who was a contemporary of mine, and a Lowell High School graduate. And also for Julia Casey Cunningham, retired teacher at the Shaughnessy School, and a memorial offered by Mr. Leahy for Peter Sullivan, father of Shayla Sullivan Pickett, a paraprofessional at the Shaughnessy School. Mr. Sullivan was also a neighbor of mine and a retired Lowell firefighter. If we could rise for a moment of silence in darkened chambers in their memory, please.
Thank you, ladies.
May they rest in peace. Under unfinished business, there is the matter of school choice. There is a memorandum in the packet. Madam Superintendent, do you have remarks on this?
Yes. We had delayed this vote in order to get all the information that we could possibly get on this issue. As committee members recall, there was an initial, the committee has responded favorably to the recommendation that we make certain placements available to students from out of district for certain of our specialized and high-quality special education programs. For example, our therapeutic program for adolescents at the LeBlanc School, our program for youngsters, deaf and hard of hearing youngsters at the McAuliffe School. And we had, in our first conversations with the Department of Education, it had been recommended that we adopt school choice, which is something that the school committee has not done in the past, that we adopt the school choice provision of the law and then specify which programs we would accept students into. After a number of questions raised by committee members, we went back to the Department of Education to explore this more thoroughly with other staff in the department, and we got a different advice this time, and I think wise advice that there's another part of the law, Chapter 71B, Section 4, as well as Chapter 76, Section 12, that permit school committees from two different communities to enter into agreement about tuition sharing for particular placements of youngsters, so that we would be able to be completely in charge of who we enrolled in any of the programs, because it would have to be agreed to us by us. As the memo that you see outlines, there would be a possibility under school choice that we may relinquish certain control that we would want to have in order to have the final say over whether a youngster enters one of our special programs. So this seems to really be the wiser course to go. So it would require that the school committee vote once again not to participate in the school choice program. And then in the event that a student, for example, from the town of Chelmsford, if there's an agreement between Chelmsford special education administrators and special education administrators here in Lowell, that the Lowell therapeutic program at the LeBlanc would be a perfect placement for the youngster, and we could accept the youngster, and it would, then we could mutually agree and notify the committee of that, enter into an agreement under this separate section of state law, have the tuition money come from Chelmsford to Lowell, be able to accept it, and then we would be in complete control over enrollments in the programs, and that really does seem to be the wiser way to go. So I would recommend the committee once again act, in this case, not to vote not to participate in the school choice program.
Okay. Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. I do want to thank the administration for following up. I also want to thank our colleague, Mr. McHugh, who I think really very wisely counseled us to get some additional information on this topic. So just to be clear, this allows us the option, by refusing school choice, it's going to allow us, still allow us to retain the most conservative approach to this in terms of our acceptance of students for the specific programs that we have available, and those only when we have space available. And it will also allow us to determine our funding for this based on special education requirements, not on school choice, which would have limited us to basically a $5,000 maximum. This will allow us to make the most conservative choices as well as be able to bill for the actual cost of the program. So that's accurate. Okay, excellent. I thank you and Mr. Lang for the work he did in finding out this information the hard way.
Thank you. Mr. Leary?
And I want to thank the administration as well, and Mr. Lang as well. Just quick question. If we do get into an agreement, say with Chelmsford, would that agreement ultimately come through the school committee for approval as well on a case-by-case basis? I'm making the assumption but just to follow up to make sure I understand.
We'll look at the technical language of the law. We'll do whatever the law requires. It might be I may be able to act on your behalf, but certainly I would inform you.
Okay.
At the very least, I would inform you.
Right, but for tonight's purposes, and I agree we should be voting no on school choice at this point, but going forward, I think maybe you want to take a further look at it, but I agree with the wisdom of taking a look at case by case might be beneficial it might be a twofer, but I think the committee should be involved in that as well. But we can talk about that at a later date. Cool.
Ms. Federicanti?
I would concur with my colleague. There may be times when it is not a benefit for us, based upon the needs of that child and the difficulty that child may present, to have that child in our school system, because we have a very large school system with a much larger special ed population. Some youngsters that are very delicate, some that act out, and so Chelmsford may say, "Oh, this is a great opportunity. Let's send this child to Lowell," and in fact, it may not be to our best interest. So I think I would agree with Mr. Leary. I would like to have some kind of indication and some kind of ability to say no, because we are a very burdened school system at the current time, and I do not want to overburden our faculty and administrators to any greater extent. Thank you.
So I believe there's a motion then to not participate in the school choice program for the upcoming school year. So moved by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Leary. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Ms. Martin?
No. Thank you.
No, I think the vote is to not participate.
Oh, okay, then.
So the vote would be yes.
So I need a yes, no? Yes.
I will vote yes, despite my colleagues' encouragement.
Mr. McHugh, Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante,
Yes.
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Larry.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved not to participate.
Okay, I don't believe there are any items under public participation, so that brings us to the motions. The first motion by Mr. Leahy, request the superintendent provide a status report on all elementary, middle, and high school libraries. The report should provide information as to whether or not they are open and staffed before and after school to meet the needs of students, especially at Lowell High School. Second by Ms. Doherty. Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. The motion pretty much speaks for itself. If we could just get a report by the next meeting, just so we know that the start of school, that we do have what our staffing levels are, and I'm mostly concerned with the high school. I would like to see that open a little bit longer after school. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Mr. Leahy, request the superintendent provide a report on all scheduled maintenance being performed over the summer at all schools. Report should include painting, electrical, plumbing, and telephone updates. Also include what landscaping improvements to the exterior of school facilities are taking place. Second by
I'll second, Your Honor.
Ms. Fattacante. Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. This one speaks for itself also. What I was interested in, and particularly interested in this, is maybe the outsides of the buildings this year. I know we didn't get much snow, but at the end of the year, we got some snow. And just like to see the curbings that have been knocked loose, and the ruts, the holes, and whatever, and the holes in the sidewalks. If those could get on a list and fixed by September, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Mr. Leahy, request the superintendent provide an update on the status of the new work order system being implemented in conjunction with the City of Lowell Department of Public Works. Second by Ms. Fattacante. Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. This one pretty much speaks for itself. We've been working on this for a while, but I would like to, if we could get something in writing by the start of the new year, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Mr. Leahy. Request the superintendent provide a report on all improvements to the reading programs at elementary, middle, and high school level, alternative school programs included. The report should include staff adjustments, book purchases, and time on learning. Second by Ms. Doherty. Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. This one, we've been doing a good job with our reading programs in the school. We've switched to some new programs. And I know tonight we're going to get a report on the high school. So if we could just have the committee informed on what improvements we've made since we've implemented the new reading programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. The next motion by, did I keep saying Councilor Leahy?
Sure,
I mean,
council, that's fine.
Mr. Leahy,
Or mayor.
request these,
Oh, he's batting 1,000 here.
the request is
Governor.
for the superintendent to provide the committee a list of essential crosswalks that need to be painted over the summer months. Second by Ms.
Second,
Doherty. Mr. Leahy.
can we send
Thank
the
you.
Leahy paint truck out to
I'll paint them.
Okay.
But what I need to have is I know we have a list. We need those cutouts cut into the sidewalks. And I did talk to a few people on this, and over the winter they told us that we'll wait for the spring. So spring and summer's here now. So if we could get a list, probably, through Mr. Lang's office to the DPW on what cutouts we need so we can have proper crosswalks painted over the summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Subcommittee reports. The first report is from the Finance Subcommittee, approval of the minutes of the May 22nd, 2007 meeting. Mr. McHugh is the chair. He is not here, but the minutes are fairly straightforward. They involve the reductions made in the budget. Motion approved by Mr. Leary, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Second subcommittee report is the Lowell High School Subcommittee report and approval of the minutes of the June 19th meeting. Ms. Doherty, Chair. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. We did meet last night. Present was myself and school committee members Regina Fatacanti, James Leary, and Connie Martin. Also present from central office was Jean Franco, interim deputy superintendent, William Samaras, the high school headmaster, Dr. Wendy Jack, high school curriculum coordinator, Kerry Lynch, Dr. Roxanne Howe, James DeProfio, the freshman academy director, Mara Amendalia, the housemaster from the high school, one of the housemasters, Maria Vejar, another housemaster, as well as Robert McCarthy, another housemaster. Parents, Latin Lyceum parents in attendance were Victoria Hayden and Joe Regan. There are also 2 members from the Greater Lowell Committee for Peace and Justice. We had 9 items on the agenda. I'm going to try to go through those items very quickly. The first one was the military recruitment procedure. We talked about the process in place to comply with No Child Left Behind regulations that require the high school to release student information to the military unless parents opt out, which the headmaster explained there's a letter that's sent out to parents. And last year, 129 students opted out of getting that information sent to their homes. It was at that time that the 2 representatives from Greater Lowell Committee for Peace and Justice asked that the committee consider letting them have, they called it equal access. What really it would turn out to be is when we have our college fairs where there might be military recruiters who set up a table with the colleges present, that this organization could also have a table. The committee, the subcommittee's motion by Ms. Fatacanti, seconded by Mr. Leary, was that the Greater Lowell Committee for Peace and Justice provide information to the headmaster about what that material would look like. The headmaster would review it and then make a recommendation to the school committee, at which point we would vote on whether to allow them presence at these college fairs and things like that. So the second item was the Latin Lyceum. It was in response to a motion by Mr. McHugh to look at providing more information to parents whose children do not get accepted into Lyceum. At this time, we asked for some changes to the letter that is sent out to parents, and I could read those changes, but I think we're going to wait on the whole thing because Mr. McHugh's not here, so if my colleagues are comfortable with that, we thought we'd put that in abeyance until Mr. McHugh has an opportunity to also see the draft letter which you received tonight that basically has a new paragraph added where parents are informed of the phone number and 2 people, Dr. Jack as well as Ms. Lynch, that they could contact with their phone numbers if they want to discuss the scores and their students' opportunities at the high school in more detail. So we're going to hold that off till Mr. McHugh gets a chance to see that. We also reviewed the parent complaint process. We were provided with a flow chart that talks about the hierarchy within the high school and how it's a little bit different at the freshman academy and at the alternative schools, but really just to go over that there is a process in place to hear parent concerns. And again, we talked about how respectful treatment and considering parents and students as our clients is something that's important to the committee. We had a follow-up on the U grades where Dr. Hauer reported that there were 1,122 students with U grades from the last report. 160 of those students were able to get credit for their classes, and there were 600 who were in need of summer school in order to get credit. Basically, these are students who, because of attendance, they get what's considered a no credit for the course, even though if they didn't have the attendance problems, their grades would be enough to be passing. One thing that was nice was that the headmasters, the housemasters were available to discuss with us that it is a large number of students, it's a lot of work for them. But two things, they're hoping that with the new X2 database, it's going to streamline the process of identifying these students much better for them in the fall. And secondly, they felt that even though it was a lot of work, it was worthwhile. It's another safety net for students, another way to keep students involved in school, and provides them with an opportunity to meet with some of our high-risk students that we would be in danger otherwise losing. I don't know if anybody wants to speak on this one.
Could I just
Ms.
ask
Martin?
a quick question on this? And just as we're kind of discussing it, my concern is that some of the numbers that we had tossed around on this at the subcommittee, that over 1,100 students are impacted in this way, that they have a U due to attendance. My concern is that we don't clear up a lot of these. I mean, these are students who are obviously performing well enough to pass, and aren't taking the initiative to just kind of clear up this attendance issue to receive credit. I just have this, that's my concern about it, and I'm sorry I didn't bring it up more strongly at the subcommittee, which I should have done. But just in terms of as we move forward with this, and I know that we'll be, we'll be reviewing this information again at a future subcommittee, but just something for us to be aware of, that these are students who are at least have the capacity to pass, and because of an attendance issue, which is 5. I mean, it's 5 absences that put them in jeopardy this way. But if those students don't have the wherewithal to clear this up, I'm concerned that there's something else going on where the buyback program is so fairly easy to take advantage of.
Mr. Leary?
Just quick, and I agree with my colleague regarding the large number. I think what the House Masters being at this subcommittee meeting really articulated that they addressed this problem as something where they needed some assistance with the intern or assistant House Master. They also acknowledged that the Saturdays program is an effective program, but they need to have more time to drill down to the students, the impact. So I think what my colleague just said, this is something that's we're going to be addressing again in our July subcommittee meeting. I think that we're going to be more successful next year. I think using X2 as a database is going to take a lot of time away from the teachers and doing the actual administrative clerical tasks. And I think the House Masters as well, which will allow them to be more proactive. So I think this is much more work to follow. I think that our folks understand what they need to do, and I think we've freed them up as a committee in our budget to do that. So I'm looking forward to a lot more success.
Thank you. Ms. Doherty? Oh, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Mr. Lee.
No, I just had a question. To the chair, the numbers in the report, they don't add up to the whole number of the report, is that?
Well,
It says 1122 and it only adds up to 1060. What happened to the other 100 or so students?
Well,
Is that-
the one thing I wanted to point out, I'm not sure about that particular math number because I didn't do the math.
All right, yeah.
But if we look at the total number of no credits, many of them are almost, it's almost like double the amount of students. So if you look at, let's say, for semester 1, they had 962 no credits, U grades, but there were 574 students. So that, to me, says that some of those students are getting 2 U's. So the number is huge, but the amount of students is almost half the number of no credits, which if we can get more services to those kids, that seems a little bit more manageable. So if you look at the number that came in for semester 2, that was 718 U's were handed out, but it represents 448 students. So we have these problem students who have issues with attendance clearly. And I think that as we put more focus on getting resources to those students, that maybe we can turn that around. But I agree, it's something we need to keep looking at. But I don't know the math question that
All
you
right,
asked.
well, that's all right. It just didn't add up. But did anybody offer with is just kids skipping or kids that don't show up to school? Not
We
really.
didn't break it down further than that. My sense
Oh,
that
all
it was that it was skipping. But we could get, it would be an unexcused absence, but was it a whole day from school or just they missed English and geometry? We didn't really go into that.
Geometry especially.
if it's 8 in the morning.
Mr. Leary?
Okay.
Just to really kind of put a focus on it, obviously there's a lot more work to do, but one of the areas the House Masters acknowledge they need to focus on, and by allowing them to do it, is a lot of these people are missing classes because they've already got enough credits to pass, and they're taking courses that might not be really that important to them. And what they need to do is really pinpoint that and say, well, this is important, you're going to get in trouble, and you may not graduate. And there's also the higher problem also seems to be with the freshmen and sophomores who think they can make this stuff up later on. And I think some policy changes might come down the pike later on once the House Masters have had a chance to really articulate and prove that point. And I think, again, there's much more work to be done. I don't want to beat the point up tonight, but a lot more work in progress. I think we've freed them up to do the work. Now we got to hold them accountable to do it. Thanks.
If I could just add one more
Yes.
point on this issue. We talked about that 5 unexcused absences put you in this category. Even if you've got an average of 90 in the class, once you've reached that 5 unexcused absence, and an unexcused absence is any absence without a doctor's note or court paperwork that says you had to be in court that day. Is that true? That we thought that itself is very difficult. A lot of people, you have the flu, you don't go to the doctors. 3 days, you feel lousy, then you go back to work, right? So there are some things we need to think about with that it's a very high, unexcused absence is any absence, not a note from your parent. You have to have a note from a doctor or some court paper that said you had to be in court that day. So, okay. So,
Any
Back
further
to-
discussion on that topic? Okay.
thank you. Okay. The next item was the non-member form. We didn't really have the information. We're looking for a status report on how many students have been non-membered since we put in this new process and form. So we're going to get that at our next meeting, which will probably be in July before the next full meeting of this committee. So that was one that was held off. We had the Lowell High School scholarship criteria. That was one of the agenda items. And some interesting numbers were thrown out. The headmaster said about $200,000 in scholarships were awarded to our students this year. And it's a very involved process. They get members from the community, teachers from the high school. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation facilitates the scholarship selection process to ensure that there's integrity in the process. Many of our scholarships come with very specific selection criteria that we have to meet in order to award the scholarships. We also discussed how the information is disseminated to students. A letter is sent home to parents so they're aware that their students can apply for this scholarship money, and guidance has been working very closely with our students to do that. We also had a report on the status of Smaller Learning Community Grant, where we had discussion about what's planned for the fall. They want to do a similar model to what we have at the Freshman Academy, in that students will be in clusters so that there'll be teams of teachers working with groups of students so we can create a smaller learning environment. Students and teachers get to know each other, and so we discussed that, and that was a report in progress. We also, one of the other agenda items was a self-paced program. This is a program that's specifically geared for students who come into the school year late. For whatever reason, they don't start at Lowell High on the first day of school, and rather than have them not be able to get credit for the whole semester, we have this self-paced program where there's a number of teachers who have volunteered to be part of this program. We'll be teaching English, health, and math. It's limited to 50 youngsters. They can only do it for that one semester. They have to, once they get into the program, they have to meet attendance guidelines, and there'll be other regulations to make sure they will be tested at the end to make sure that they meet the same criteria for the health, math, and English class as a student in the other program. This is just a pilot program. We want to see how it goes, and again, it's another way to try to help students be matriculating credit who get into the system, who get into the school late for whatever reason. The final agenda item was a report on the Read 180 program, which my colleagues might remember is our remedial reading program. It's a software computer program, and we looked at some statistics. We had gotten an earlier report in January which showed some very promising results, and this report followed through with those results. We saw, on an average, students who participated in the Read 180 program increased between 1.5 to 2 grade levels over the course of the year. And some students made closer to 3.5, almost 4 grade level jumps. One thing that was really encouraging, well, actually two things. One is Dr. Wendy Jack pointed out that because we have invested, this committee has invested in more Read 180 supports for the 10th grade, many of these students who have made these gains but are still not reading at grade level will continue the support next year. They'll start right in September, familiar with the program, ready to take off from where they left off this spring to continue to make the progress. And the second encouraging point, although we didn't get specific numbers, I'm hoping we'll get that in July, the 8th grade students coming into the high school next year, it looks like the numbers are going to be lower. We're not going to have as many freshmen who need the Read 180 program as we had this past fall, and I think that we're going to continue to see that trend as we continue our supports in the K-8 program. So that was it. I tried to be as quick as I could. It was a 2-hour meeting, which was also huge, that we covered all this material in 2 hours. I don't know if anyone else wants to mention anything about what we discussed.
Mr. Leary?
Just real quick on the Read 180, I think there's some progress that's obvious, but a lot of things should be pointed out. One important thing should be pointed out. A lot of these kids that are taking Read 180 are not people who've stayed with us for a long consecutive period of time. These are students coming into our district. And that even with the funds being reduced with Title I, et cetera, we're still being innovative. I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, it's real. We're being innovative with Read 180, which Committeeman Leahy has pushed extensively. So they are making progress. There's a lot more to be done, but they're not young folks who have spent 5-6 years within the Lowell public school system. That's something that needs to be pointed out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. Other comments on the subcommittee report? Motion.
So the motion by Mr. Leary, seconded by Ms. Fataconti, to recommend to the committee as a whole accept this report as a report of progress.
Okay. So moved by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Leahy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The report is approved. We have a number of reports from the superintendent. Madam Superintendent, first, community outreach.
Yes, you have information in your packet about the citywide mental health training for summer camp counselors that was put together as a product of a year-long, I mean, that's not the only product of it, but there's a group now in place, the heads of some of the major youth servicing agencies in the city and organizations in the city. So the Lowell Public Schools, CTI, the Girls Inc., Girls and Boys Club, some of the major organizations in the city, trying to collaborate, meet in a roughly monthly basis to identify ways that we can share resources and collaborate to meet identified needs. One of the first projects that we worked on last summer was to see if we could leverage some of the school department's access to transportation to support after-school programs. Another project that we're working on is to make it easier for information about student needs to be shared between after-school counselors and workers in after-school programs and school teachers. This particular one was to identify the specific need of summer camp counselors in various Lowell locations in the summer to have an opportunity to learn more about basic mental health and the kinds of look for and warning signs. And so a number of the staff from some of the smaller agencies in the cities came together, about 100 of them, last Friday for this training. I thought the committee would want to know that this kind of collaboration is ongoing, involving the school department and the other agencies.
Okay. Any questions on this issue? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next on the manager's gang advisory board.
Yes, committee member Leahy has asked for regular updates on the work of the city manager's gang advisory board, and I'm sharing with the committee a recent op-ed piece put together by Dr. Cowan, president of Middlesex Community College, describing the work of the task force that both Ms. Doherty and I sit on.
Any questions? Mr. Leahy?
No, I just want to say thank you for the report, and we'll just keep plugging away at it. Thank you.
Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Mr. Leahy, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next item, the Safe Routes to School program.
Yes, I think a number of committee members are very familiar with this effort, where Lowell became one of the only urban districts in the Commonwealth to participate in the Safe Routes to School statewide initiative, and we did it through Walking Wednesdays at the Lincoln School. And you have a copy of the information about the program, as well as the letter I wrote to the Lincoln School faculty, staff, families, and students who really made an incredible effort. And virtually every youngster was involved in walking to school in some way, and it was a fantastic community building experience for the Lincoln School community. I know a number of the people sitting in this room, committee members, the mayor, and members of central office participated in one or more of the Walking Wednesdays. So it was really a wonderful event with a lot of cooperation with the police department and others.
Mr. Leahy, also
Thank
one
you.
of the participants.
Sure. We were all there, and I thought the Lincoln School did a great job, and it was a worthwhile effort. So I just wanted to comment on that and echo Superintendent's message. And did I mention we need a couple of crosswalks, and then we'll be all set. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Mr. Leahy, seconded by Mr. Leary. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next on parent outreach.
Two documents here for the committee's review that are designed to support our efforts to engage parents and make access to the schools and the school resources easier. So the first is a document prepared by the Citywide Parent Council in collaboration with staff from the public schools and with support from the UMass Lowell Graduate School of Education, a kind of how-to guide to make contact with different kinds of issues they have, how to get a hold of people in the system. This is going to be translated and tried out, piloted next year as a follow-up to the Mary Bacigalupo Forum.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. Just a couple quick comments. First, I thought that the content of this was really extraordinary, and I was really very pleased to see, especially the kind of the breakdown about where people should go with questions about specific topic areas, and whether it's transportation or school assignments or all those types of things. I really think that's incredibly valuable information for parents to have, no matter what point they're coming into our district, whether it's with kindergarten students or throughout. Also, the information about really who's responsible for what, whether it's the school committee or the parent information center, or all those different information points, I really found extremely interesting, and I thought well done in the way that it was put together. The information that's been put together for the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. There's a lot of information in here that I think is extremely valuable. I do have a real concern, and it's something that I know that the superintendent knows we've discussed. There is absolutely no consistency of message. There is no design kind of leitmotif that runs through any of this. And I have a real issue with that. We are a district that services over 14,000 students. It is inconceivable to me that we cannot come up with a design motif that allows us to differentiate our information from everyone else, let alone differentiate it for ourselves. That any one office within our district is putting together information that has absolutely no relationship to what anyone else is doing. And that I have a real concern with, and as we look at this, I think it's time we change that. We've talked about it around the periphery, I think, for long enough, and now it's time that we really just need to make that commitment. I also think that as we look at, especially this packet for the kindergartners, there's no reason why this shouldn't be one cohesive packet of information and not 50 different things from 50 different departments. I appreciate the first day of school. It's very charming, a little poem, but come on. Could we please just put this in one cohesive message that would really be professional and communicate to our parents the level of commitment and professionalism that we have in this district? So I would, if I could, put in the form of a motion that we redesign these materials keeping in mind that it should be something that can be reusable, whether it's a shell that we use for all of the different things that we use, but something that is really discernible as a Lowell Public Schools document that includes this great substance, but does it in a way that is consistent and in terms of message and design. So I'd make that in the form of a motion. Thank you.
So moved by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Leary. Any further discussion on the motion? Ms. Doherty.
Yes, I just have a question through you to the superintendent. Have these materials been mass-produced at this point? Have we made hundreds and hundreds of copies of these? I'm just curious.
We've made enough of I think enough of this one was printed to pilot it next year, but it's not more than that, so that we'll be able to make, I think, the changes that are envisioned by committee member Martin over the long term. And I absolutely agree with agree with that, and I anticipate that that will involve some professional help in the design.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is approved. Next item is the results for the Mass English Proficiency Assessment testing, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. This is the second year in which the state has done testing of English language proficiency, and so this is a report of the results of the second year of that testing, and the results are very similar this year to what they were last year. So if I could just, a couple of the highlights. I thought committee members would find it interesting, as in the highlights I've indicated here. Lowell has the largest limited English proficient population in the state as percent of our population. 30%, 29.6% of our students are classified as limited English proficient, meaning they're not yet able to perform classwork independently in English. 50% of our students report that the first language in their home is other than English. And while Lowell educates about 1.4% of the state's public school students, literally 9.2% of the state's tests that were administered for English language proficiency were administered here in Lowell schools. So it gives a sense of the opportunity and the challenge that we have. And the good news is that Lowell students outscore the state average in almost every measure of the test across all the grade levels tested. And similarly, our participation rate in our elementary and middle schools exceeds the state average. Not so at the high schools, so this points to an issue that we need to work on for next year, is to make sure that we get our participation rate in the testing at the high school level up into the 95% category. And compared to all students tested across the Commonwealth, Lowell students show consistent and often dramatically higher levels of performance. So that, for example, Lowell students on average score anywhere from 5 points, that's at grades 3 or 4, to 15 points, which is grades 7 and 8, higher than the statewide average for the scores on this quite rigorous assessment of English language proficiency. So we're pleased with the results. We know there's a lot more work we need to do to refine our English as a second language work at all of the schools, but we think we're moving in the right direction, and we're going to use this data at the individual student level. This is the first year where we've actually incorporated all the individual by individual data together with all the other testing data for youngsters, and teachers and principals will have a set of information on each of their students in their hands as they schedule students for next year. So it'll be really, really helpful in making appropriate groupings of youngsters. So I'd welcome any questions or comments.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you. I had a couple quick questions. On page 7 of the report, where you reference, there's a pie chart here referencing that 27% of students, I just want to make sure I'm reading this right, 27% of our students gain one level or more within the course of this year. So that means not a grade level, that's a level within.
Right. There are 4 levels of proficiency, right? So beginning, intermediate, and so on. And there's one level transitioning, which youngsters often stay in for multiple years. And so, so that one of the reasons you see the fastest change from at the lowest levels, from a beginner to the next level. But youngsters typically stay in that transitioning stage for 2, 3, it could be 4 years, 5 years even, to stay in that level before they really can get to the point where they're really able to be completely independently in regular classrooms.
But the transition level really is that highest level of
That's right.
performance before they are really just
Right.
like any other student, mainstreamed and all that.
Exactly. It is, right, it's the hardest one to get over, and it's the
'Cause
one
it
you
is the
stay in
most-
longest before moving into being declared fluent in
Okay.
English.
My final question really is on the appendix. And if, really, I'm just looking, if you could just explain to me how this graph works and in terms of their years within our district and where they're scoring on the test.
These, the last page, for example, if I just look at the last page,
Okay.
the very last page of the appendix,
Yeah.
as an example, looks at
Grades 7 and 8.
7 and 8. So it looks, the one that looks at 7th and 8th grades. So that's looking at the 7th and 8th grade results. It's showing that for students who are in their first year in Massachusetts,
Okay.
in Lowell, just over 20% were already in the already got to the transitioning stage by the end of that first year. Statewide, it was a somewhat lower percent, 16%. So those are youngsters making an extraordinarily rapid movement through to transitioning. In some cases, it could be youngsters with incredible linguistic gift, or it could be youngsters who actually had some considerable English before arriving in Massachusetts. The only way we have this is in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Then for youngsters who are in their second year in Massachusetts, again, Lowell had a slightly higher percentage of those youngsters, it's the blue box, than the state, who got to the transitioning stage. Year 3, again, slightly higher percent than the state. Then in fourth year, kind of as a result of the first, second, and third year, the fourth year, we have a lower percent of youngsters who are here for their fourth year who are in the transitioning, who reach the transitioning level, or are in the transitioning level
Right.
by the end of the year. And then the fifth year or more, we've got 60% of, which is what we would want, at least 60% of the kids who are in their fifth year or more are in the transitioning stage, which again is higher than the statewide figure. So these are all encouraging to us. They're encouraging to us that the state, we know that the state law was not realistic, that expected kids to be fluent in English, the typical average
Right.
youngster to be fluent in English within 1 year or even 3 years. We know that for most youngsters, it takes longer. It depends on when they started to learn English, what their level of literacy in their
At the
native
beginning.
language is, et cetera. But that's what this graph is intending to show.
Okay.
And
Thank
so
you
that-
very much.
Thank you. Further questions, Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. I just want to comment that, this report does show that, the administration, the staff, the teachers, everybody, we're working hard and we're making progress. Sure, we have things to do, we have some work to make up, but, we're moving in the right direction, under your direction, and this just shows that, together in Lowell, we can make progress, and the kids are getting the best education that we can provide here. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on this report? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is approved. The next item, the quarterly report on motions. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, this is an up-to-date quarterly report on the status of motions. I thought it would be important for the committee to, as we move into the summer, to see the status of the various motions.
Any questions? Motion to accept the report by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next is the personnel report.
Yes, you have the monthly personnel report identifying retirements, resignations, and new hires for next year.
Move approval.
Motion to approve by Ms. Faticante, second by Ms. Doherty, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is approved. Next is the list of eligible teachers.
Once again, the monthly list of eligible teachers, all those people who are on our official list eligible to be hired as teachers in the Lowell Public Schools.
Motion to accept the report by Mr. Leahy, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The report is approved. And last, we have home education.
Yes, a request reviewed by Ms. Franco of 2 children to be home educated. Needs the committee approval.
Motion to approve by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Doherty. Roll call.
Miss Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McHugh, Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Miss Doherty,
Yes.
Miss Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Okay, under new business, we have 2 items. The first is approval to file letter of interest for the MSBA for the Sapasara School. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, you have I think a fairly thorough explanation by Assistant Superintendent Lang of the next steps in the process for school buildings. The City Council approved the committee's request to move forward with building a new Morey Elementary School, and ground is about to be broken on that, I believe. So we're moving smartly ahead with that. But we are back to the drawing boards for a new Sapatsaris Elementary School. So this will be the first step in moving that project forward. It will have to be at a different site, not at the old Butler site, because the old Butler site will not be approved under the new regulations. And you have in the memo from Mr. Lang the specific wording that is recommended for 2 separate votes. So I would recommend the committee take action on using the language that's in the provided by Mr. Lang.
Any questions or discussion? Okay. All right, so I guess we'll have 2 votes. The first vote concerning the Varnum Elementary School, that the committee votes to authorize the superintendent to submit a report to the MSBA consistent with the language set forth in this memorandum. So moved by Mr. Leary, second by Ms. Fattacante. Roll call.
Miss Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McHugh, Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Miss Doherty,
Yes.
Miss Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
6 yeas, that vote is approved. And the second vote is a vote to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Mass School Building Authority a statement of interest concerning the Moody Elementary School, 158 Rogers Street, again, consistent with the language set forth in the memorandum. Motion to approve by Mr. Leary, second by Ms. Fattacante. Roll call.
Miss Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McHugh, Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Miss Doherty.
Yes.
Miss Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Okay, the next
Excuse
item
me?
under new business, I'm sorry, Madam Superintendent.
If I could just comment that with this vote by the school committee, it will now move forward to the City Council. It'll be on their agenda for next Tuesday, so they will vote the same motions. And just as by way of explanation, the vote number 1 related to the Varnum Elementary School, because what we're specifically requesting is to replace, we're trying to be under the category of replacing obsolete building, and then the same thing, the second motion is to replace the obsolete building of the Moody School, and that's the basis for our letter of intent. We have to fit within a category that's acceptable to the under the new regulations.
Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to make a motion that at our next facilities subcommittee that we discuss the situation with the old Butler site, possibility of turning it back to the city.
Okay, motion to add the consideration of the Butler School site at the next facility subcommittee meeting by Mr. Leahy, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That matter will be referred to the facility subcommittee. Under new business, the next item concerns the school resource officers. Madam Superintendent.
Uh, that I've been able to make since the budget time on looking at ways to use our resources to continue to improve safety at our middle school level. And so you have a recommendation from me that we've got 2 positions for security guards, security officers at middle school built into the budget. And I'm now recommending that we use the funds instead, most of the funds instead, to add another school resource officer dedicated to the middle schools for next year. As we've discussed this at several subcommittee meetings and discussed it further with principals, our sense is that if we're able to bring our school resource officer contingent up to 4 for the middle schools, which is what this would do, it would enable us to have the kind of coverage that we think is desirable, and we think that this can work well. That each school resource officer would be assigned essentially to 2 schools, so they'd be able to develop a relationship with youngsters at 2 schools. They'd be able to be a strong resource at the 2 schools. We've had very productive discussions with Chief LaValle, and he has assured me that if we put this money in our budget, which requires just a transfer from one line to another, then he will be able to provide an officer for the schools, and he shares our enthusiasm for this move. He thinks this will help the police department as well. So I recommend that the committee accept the recommendation to transfer funds set aside for middle school security guards, to transfer that to add a school resource officer position to our budget. It would make 3 school resource officer positions that we are paying for in the local budget instead of currently 2.
Your Honor, I'm going to move approval for the superintendent's recommendation.
So moved by Ms. Faticante, second by Mr. Leary. Any further
Also have
discussion?
Thank you, Your Honor. I hear what the superintendent is saying about it behooves us clearly as a committee to have a resource officer in the middle schools. I think that clearly benefits us far more than it does to have a security person there. I think for lots of reasons. However, I'm still thinking that we might need one more security person at the high school. So before we eliminate that completely from our discussion, I'd like for a joint meeting of the safety and high school subcommittee to possibly meet, toss that around. We have a very large high school, and I think it doesn't hurt us to decide whether or not we would like to add another security person there.
Okay. So this vote, however, concerns the
Yes.
middle schools. So let's take any further discussion on the middle school issue. So roll call on that.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McHugh, Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Okay. So that vote is approved. Then there's a
Thank
motion by Ms. Faticante to refer the issue of security officers
Right.
to a joint meeting of the high
Because
school.
there is a small portion of money that would be left, so we, as a committee, would need to decide how important it is to us collectively to add another security person. If it's not important, then that money goes into the suspense account. If it is important, then we need to figure out how we're going to address that.
Okay.
John,
So,
safety and Lowell High School.
is to a joint meeting?
To a joint meeting of the safety and Lowell High School Subcommittee.
Okay. So moved
Because
by.
I think the members are the same of both committees.
Okay. So
Pretty
moved
much.
by Ms. Faticante, second by Mr. Leary. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The matter of the remaining funds referred to that joint subcommittee meeting. Thank you. All right. We have 6 convention conference requests. Any objection to taking them together?
Yep, no objection, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
The 6 requests by Ms. Faticante, second by Ms. Martin, roll call.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McHugh, Mayor Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
And under professional personnel, there is a request from the United Teachers of Lowell requesting permission to donate sick leave days to following staff: Drew Weil, Lowell High School, 24 days, and Judith Casey, Lowell High School, 3 days.
Move approval, Your Honor.
Motion approved by Ms. Fattacante, second by Mr. Leary. Roll call.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McHugh, Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Yes.
6 yeas, 1 absent, approved.
Believe that concludes the agenda. Nothing else to come before the meeting. Motion to adjourn by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Ms. Fattacante. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The meeting stands adjourned.